Hi all, Chris here. This is a short video on how to get up and running with Git on Windows. So to get Git on Windows is a pretty simple task. You're going to want to fire up your browser and do a search for git-scm. And once you get there, if you go to the downloads page, his internet's being slow. Then you can click on the Windows download, and it will generate for you a download link of git-scm in whatever operating system you have. I have a 64-bit Windows VM here. So if you're on Linux, usually Git will come pre-installed in your system. Otherwise, you can use your package manager of choice to apt install Git or pacman-s Git or whatever you have. So if you click on the installer, it'll take you through a short install process. So we'll say yes, of course, read the whole license agreement. Obviously, I have done that and would never install without reading the license agreement. Click Next, pick an install directory. By default, usually that's fine. I've already installed this before, so it's asking me if I want to overwrite the directory, which I will. So in terms of the installer, this is the first place you have options. I'm going to recommend everybody learn how to use command line Git, so I wouldn't even install Git GUI. Just Git bash, and we'll do it all from the terminal. That way, if you end up on a high-performance computing system or something that doesn't have a front end, you'll still be capable of doing all of your Git stuff. I also like to turn on check for daily updates because there are some good features that come out from time to time. So we'll install in the regular location. You can choose your editor. If you're a Windows-only user and you don't know what any of these things are, I recommend to you that you use Notepad++. If you don't have Notepad++ installed, I don't think it will prompt you, so you'll want to go get that first. That's a nice utility to have in general. But I'm going to pick Vim because it's the one true way. Even though it says it can be hard to use, it's not. Vim is the one true way. Okay, so we'll click Next. When we're doing the names of the branches, we'll say let Git decide, so I don't care between master and main. Master is fine with me. And then I'm going to choose Git from also third-party software. That's fine. If you want to do from the Windows command prompt, you can do it that way. I personally recommend that you use Git bash rather than PowerShell or the DOS prompt. So we'll go ahead and click Next. And then you'll want the OpenSSL library. You'll want to check out Windows style, commit Unix style. So the difference here is when you check out Windows style, you'll have the proper line endings for Windows. And then when you commit on Linux style stuff, you won't interrupt everybody else. If you pick something else, like checkout as is, commit as is, if you're Windows only and everyone else is on Windows, it'll be fine, but otherwise you'll get wonky line endings, and Git will say that there are differences between lines even when there actually are not, just because of that terminating character. And then I will choose also use min-tty because I like that better than the default command prompt. So here is a case where you can decide how I don't know, how lazy you want to be with your Git setup. I personally prefer to only fast forward. I don't like to pull and accidentally create merge commits. You could choose rebase. I think that's a pretty safe option, but I'm going to do all of that stuff manually, so I'm just going to do only ever fast forward here. The credential manager will help you if you use GitHub and it has HTTPS links. It'll let you remember your sign-in credentials, so we're going to use that. And then I'm going to also enable symbolic links. And then Git bash without using WinPty. That seems cool. All right, I'll use that too. So this is where you usually get new features, and when you do future updates, it will only show you the new options, so you don't lose anything by picking anything like that. So then we'll do the install, which doesn't take very long, and then we're at least halfway there. At this point, you'll be ready to use Git bash, but there is a little bit more setup that I'm going to do just to show you how it works. So whenever this gets done, okay, there we are. I'm going to launch Git bash. Okay, so you should then be greeted by the bash terminal. I'm going to use Control+ or Control Shift =. to get a little bit larger screen size. So what you'll see here is we open by default in the tilde directory, which if you're familiar with a Linux shell is the home directory. So on Windows, this is actually at C users and your username. The first thing that I would probably do if I were you is I would open that. So if you go to this PC, C users, and then your username, you can take this address, and then I believe you can drag it down here for quick access, because you may eventually want to do that again. That didn't work. How about like that? There we are. Okay, and then we're pinned for quick access, so we can go right there. So this is where Git is going to store all your configuration files, which don't appear yet, but that's the thing we're going to do next. So you may find that if you just install Git and you start working, there's one other set of setup steps that you need to run in order to properly make a commit, which is specifically you have to identify yourself and set an email address. So to do that here, I'm going to go ahead and just make a dummy Git repository, and then I'm going to clone it and try to make it commit, and then Git will prompt you to do those things, and this way you won't be surprised when you see it. If you've already done things like this and you've seen this before, then this is a good place to stop the video. So I'm going to do make directory, and we'll call it git repo, sure, cd git repo. We're going to git init bear shared group. You don't need to do the shared group if you're doing the same steps as I am, but if you're doing this like on a Linux system somewhere and you want to create a Git repository, you'll want to do it that way so other people can team with you if they're in the same Unix group. And that'll commit, or rather create for you all of the stuff that you need to have a Git repository. So if I go up a level and then I do git clone, git repo, and we'll call it, I don't know, my clone, sure, we'll name it cd my clone, and then we'll have to create a file to make a commit. So we'll say touch foo, and then we'll do git add dot git status will then show that we've added that one file, git commit -m. Here's a message, and then we're gonna get an error here because there's no git config yet. So then all you have to do is just follow right along with what Git tells you to do here. So we'll say git config -- global user.email. We're going to do Kesra@purdue.edu. You use your email address, obviously, and that will have created your .gitconfig folder, or rather file. I'll show you in a second. And then we'll do the other command, config global user.name, and this is a good place to do your actual full name. Don't put like just Chris, because if there's another Chris in this project, we won't be able to tell each other apart. Okay, so there's that, and then I can do git commit -m, there's the message, and if I do git log, the things that we populated will be in there. So it says this is my name, and this is the email address you gave. If you let it do it by default, a lot of times it'll Sorry, headphones disconnected there. It'll tell you something to the effect of like Kesra at and the name of your machine, which we wouldn't want to have. Okay, so now we're all set. Git's all installed. If you go into your folder, you'll see there is a .gitconfig in here. So if I open with, and I don't know if I have Notepad++ installed. I do not, so we'll just use regular old Notepad. This is what Git's reading when you do Git stuff. So there's a user block here. There are a whole bunch of other things you can put in. Aliases and default behaviors and so on and so forth. But this is where Git puts them by default, so everyone's aware. But that is the full setup on how to get started with Git on Windows. Future videos will show you how to use Git and kind of explain the method to the madness. And this will obviously be the last time you'll see me booted into a Windows machine. So thanks all for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.